Kani kadega Batesi TV, bat pidang pet yaki kubor baman kasni, balawan rasha pi da ka Orange Nissan, lom so po niya Fabricate Shillong, ringkat bat ka BDW International School Nongmansong, Langkarding Shillong. Admissions open now.
Hakasngi ke baar, jong ke Dorbar mang tingkah Ïing Dorbar Thaw ke jela, ke balalong ha khanreu terek mentau benai leber ajar arpo. Namar bakadairu kapor, hakaba ki babon kiri, hakaperthai, kidang yaki wen, banyele hakaba khanglat ban sapriang, uknyang jingpang corona. Kumta hakani ke Dorbaru layak keren Halor kani kapang, ki ek senjam ki baka sorkar Meghalaya, kalasiem, banyada na kajingwan poi uni uknyang jingpang, syakani ke jela. Bat yakani kamat lawan ra, da ka MLA, jong ka seng kongres na Ampati Constituency, Kamiani di Shira.
So after looking the national scenario, also the international scenario, how the coronavirus has been growing in the globally. That's why, sir, we have want to come with the statement today. But before that, I would like to inform you, yesterday evening, in spite of being a Sunday, we have to call the urgent meeting with the Honorable Education Minister, the Commissioner Secretary of the Health Department, Principal Secretary of the Education Department, the DC, and all the officials of health and the government to call on this problem which is now we are facing globally. Sir, now I beg to lay the statement and also a request. Yesterday also we had taken this decision. From tomorrow onward, we'll close down all the educational institutions, the pubs, the cinema hall, whatever, anywhere which is included for the public gathering. And also, sir, except we'll close down all educational institutions within the state and to remain closed except for the holding examination. Sir, I beg to lay the statement. WHO has declared the recent COVID-19 coronavirus disease outbreak as a public health emergency of international concern, PHEIC, due to its rapid transmissions and spread around the globe. Recent evaluations of COVID-19 affected countries has shown that the delay in enforcing social distancing restrictions has led to increase in a number of cases and deaths in those countries. Considering the situations where the numbers of cases have been gradually rising in the country, the Health and Family Welfare Department, Government of Meghalaya, has issued the following advisory and restrictions, which purpose to come into effect from 17 March 2020 to 31st March 2020. All educational institutions within the states are to remain closed except for the holding examinations. 2 places of mass gathering like cinema hall, mall, gymnasium, major sports, events, and swimming pool, etc. are to be closed. 3, the conferences, the workshop, meetings, seminar, training, etc., which involve a large gathering are to be postponed or cancelled. All non-essential travel outside into the states are to be postponed or avoided. 5th, visiting big open and enclosed market and tourist places are to be avoided. 6th, social distancing and hand hygiene to be maintained in place of work and worship. 7, notified fair and festival are to be postponed or cancelled. 8, close contact in public transport is to be avoided. 9, companies or offices with work from home option may be permit employees to do so. The Health Department has given the above advisory and final decisions, and detailed instruction will be issued after the meeting being convened today by the Honorable Chief Minister, the Chief Secretary, Government of Meghalaya in this regards. And also, sir, request the Honorable Speaker to adjourn the House or make it short this session to avoid any kind of public gathering. Thank you, sir.
So in view of the importance and seriousness of the matter, I will now adjourn the House for some time and to discuss on the remaining. business of the House and the entire budget session. I will give my ruling on this adjournment motion and after the House resume. I would request, therefore, the Honourable Chief Minister, the Deputy Chief Minister, Leader of Opposition, Charles Pongro, and Balajit Kupasisram, and the Health Minister, to please meet me in my chamber. The House will resume its sitting till 12:15.
May I beg to ask for leave to move the adjournment of the House under Rule 56(1) of the Rules of Procedure and Conduct of Business in the House. I would like to move that this House to adjourn the business of the Assembly to discuss a matter of grave public importance in view of the effective and comprehensive measures needed to be taken on a very urgent and proactive basis to prevent and arrest the spread of coronavirus infection in order to save precious lives and prevent the likely irreversible dislocation of economy of the state. Honorable Speaker, sir, thank you for giving the time for this adjournment motion. We all know that there are very important matters that were listed for discussion in today's business of the House. However, we felt that this matter was of utmost importance and urgency. Even a delay of a day or so by the government can mean that we will be losing precious lives, and therefore we cannot waste any time. Therefore, we felt the need to bring this adjournment motion to discuss the spread of the COVID-19 virus in our state. There are just few points that I'd like to make, and also just discuss few incidents that have happened. And today, I'd like to thank the Honourable Minister in charge Health and Family Welfare as well for making a statement regarding this situation. And we have taken necessary actions, no doubt, regarding that. But I think we need to further discuss and explore all the options available to us regarding the spread of the virus. Now, over the weekend, this weekend, we have seen that a lot of development have taken place in this country. A number of states who have tested and found that a number of people have tested positive in their states have chosen to close down almost all their institutions and cinemas and wherever mass gathering might happen. So we saw that in this weekend, so many changes have taken place in the country, and a lot of our students and people who are working in these states, a mass movement have taken place. I think I will not be wrong to say that many of us who are present in this house today will have at least one member from our family, whether immediate or distant relative, who have come back from different parts of the country in the weekend, over the weekend. And we know from what has happened in Italy and other countries that after the virus has come into their country, the spread happens with domestic movement of the public. So therefore, because of these mass movement of our people, now we're very concerned that I don't know if we have taken necessary measures to monitor them, or if any directive has been given to for them to self-isolate themselves for a about 14 days. I think that is the required time for self-quarantine. So I don't know if the state government has taken measure to identify these people who have moved from different states over the weekend, and also I don't know if I'm sure they have not been screened. And we all know that the symptoms show only after an average of 5 days up to about 2 weeks, the symptoms start coming. So therefore, to identify and monitor these people who have come in over the weekend from different parts of the country is the need of the hour. So that is the first point that I'd like to make. Now the second one is that we know that a lot of foreigners have also come into our state. Now, no doubt, they must have been screened in the airport, but temperatures, just like I mentioned, temperatures and other symptoms start coming only after a week or so. So therefore, I think we still had the Meghalayan Age Festival. I think the government had announced that it would be turned into a conference instead, but I'm informed that the festival took place in its full scale, and a lot of people had gathered, and also we were still having mass gatherings, religious gatherings as well. So we need to take that into consideration, and also our people who have traveled abroad and have come back and are not self-quarantining themselves. We know for a fact that a lot of our people have traveled abroad and have come back over the past week, but I'm being informed by reliable sources that they are not practicing self-quarantine. So that's very, very alarming to know, and they have engaged in meeting people and engaged in different gatherings. So that is quite alarming. The next point that I'd like to make is regarding the tests that is being taken place in our state. Now, I was in touch with a number of students who had come back from Delhi to Garo Hills over the last week. Now, they developed symptoms of fever and dry cough and other symptoms related to the COVID-19 virus. So they wanted to get themselves checked. But the authorities refused to take their samples. The reason being the infections were quite mild and they did not have any travel history. But unfortunately, I think travel history isn't to any foreign countries. So that was quite alarming that somebody who was being responsible, trying to get themselves checked, was being refused because they did not have any travel history to any foreign country. Now we know that since there are reported incidents of positive patients in Delhi and in other states in the entire country have gone up to more than 100. Now, we know that these students have taken public transport. They don't know if they have been in contact with anybody who's tested positive. So therefore, the refusal to take their samples was quite alarming. And in view of that, I think we must make sure that a lot of tests are done in the state. I think Nigrims is the testing center. I don't know if they are just collecting samples or doing the testing themselves. I was informed that they are sending the samples to Calcutta and Pune, but I'm not sure of that. I think our Honorable Health Minister can clarify on that. But however, if we are not testing enough, we will not know about the status of the COVID-19 virus in our state. Now, if the authorities are refusing to take samples and automatically that means we are not testing. Now automatically if we're not testing, then we don't know the status. It's like walking in the dark. So therefore I would like to urge upon the Minister in charge, our Honourable Minister, to see to this matter, and I'm hopeful that we will be able to take all the necessary measures for curbing this infection. We all know that it has been time and again told to us that we must not panic. And we know that most healthy people who have good immune system will not be infected very seriously. But we can be carriers. Now, if we just say that these are just mild infections, we are misleading the public. We know that even with mild infection, we can be carriers. I might be having mild symptoms, but I can carry and infect other vulnerable and high-risk patients. Now, for example, we can see the unfortunate event that happened in Delhi. Her case was the second death in our country. She was quite old and she had pre-existing medical conditions. Her son had traveled abroad. He had traveled to Europe and he came back with the infection. Now, he was just having mild. Initially, he didn't have any symptoms. I think his mother started showing symptoms before him. And unfortunately for her, she lost her life. But if we look at the son who brought in the virus, he is stable. So we know that we cannot take chances on mild symptoms. We have to take it very seriously. Therefore, we should not mislead people into thinking that just because it's a mild symptom, we cannot spread it. We can spread it. Now, we can see that in the entire country, all the state governments are taking necessary actions, and it has been notified by the Government of India that it is a disaster. I think during question hour as well, our Honourable Minister had mentioned about that, and he read out the notification. So, therefore, the alarm bells have already been rung. So we have to take it very seriously. Now, we know that our neighboring states like Assam and West Bengal, on whom we depend heavily for our economic activities, have already shut institutions, have already shut down all the mass gatherings, like religious gatherings, weddings we also have to look into. So because these neighboring states have also shut, we must look into the effect that it will have on our economic activity as well. So I don't know how prepared we are as a state for that sort of a lockdown, so to say. Now, we know that the state cannot take the risk of a heavy infection because we know that our hospitals are not very well equipped. I saw the question that our Honourable Member had asked in the start question, Honourable Member Dr. Amprin Lingdo, and there was a reply which was given by the Honourable Minister. I could see that there was no cabinet level meeting until I think yesterday regarding this issue, because all the meetings have been mentioned. However, there was no cabinet level meeting until yesterday, and also we can see that all the hospitals are very ill equipped to deal with this sort of an outbreak, if an outbreak has to happen. If we just look at the number of ventilators that we have in the entire state, is only 4, sir, with ventilators. And without ventilators is 30. That's for isolation wards. And 36 wards, sorry, without ventilators. And the number of N95 masks, which is for protection of our medical officials, we can see that there are only 330 masks available. I don't know what it is supposed to mean, but I think, and on top of that, in this list, nothing is mentioned regarding other districts. It mentions only West Garo Hills, East Khasi Hills, West Jaintia Hills, West Khasi Hills, and Riphoi. Now, I don't know what is the condition of the other district. So I think we need to move fast because time is of the essence. And if we lose time, then we will have to see the outbreak in our state, which we're very ill-equipped to deal with. Therefore, sir, I will not be taking much time, but just these few suggestions, sir, for the department so that we can work together towards curbing the outbreak. We have to look into the domestic movement of our people. I think that is of utmost importance. We have to encourage social distancing, and we have to give directive from the side of the government for social distancing, and we have to explore different options as to what is feasible. I think that is very important. And we have to prepare the state for the economic impact that it will have. So these are just my few suggestions to the government of the day, and I am sure that we will work together towards curbing the possible outbreak, and I am hoping that nothing serious will happen in our state. With these submissions, sir, I would like to resume my seat. Thank you.
Honorable Speaker, sir, I also rise to participate in this very important adjournment motion that myself and our honorable member from Ampati we brought, considering the kind of pace that this virus is spreading across the globe and in our country as well. If we look at the figures, in New York, in the first week, there were only 2 people who got infected. By the third week, 613 people got infected. If you look at Iran, the first week, 2 people got infected. By the 5th week, more than 12,000 people got infected. And India, so far we have done well, sir, to contain the virus. With the first week, there were 3 people detected, and by the third week, now 105. So we are in a very crucial time of the 4th and 5th week where containment of this spread has to be done immediately by all state governments, especially by our health department. So, sir, as we have brought this adjournment motion, knowing also that there are very serious businesses to be discussed, especially the budget that has to be brought. But then this particular time that we have is very crucial. I'm thankful to the Honourable Minister and to the government that they have decided to close down the schools and colleges. It is time, sir, because it should not be a late reaction from our side. Seeing the children going to school, and yesterday seeing foreign nationals moving across the city seems to be quite disturbing for the citizens who have seen them and also who have alerted most of the members in this August House. So, much have been said from the honorable by the member from Ampati. I just would like to say that we need to discuss on our preparedness, because looking from the statement that has been placed by the minister and also the answers to the start question that could not be taken up today, it seems that a lot needs to be done. A lot needs to be done. The only information that we are getting now and only alertness that people are getting about the coronavirus is that cough, hello tune that we hear when we call someone. And it is in English and Hindi. So most of the people are feeling annoyed as to why this cough is coming, especially when, from rural areas, we hardly hear this suddenly. Sometimes when I myself, when I heard the cough the first time, I got surprised and shocked as to why the fellow whom I'm calling started coughing over the phone. So it may sound comical at this time, sir, but then I think the hello tunes also should be tuned in such a manner that people should also understand what the chap or the lady who's on the other end trying to explain to the people. So these are small things, sir, which in fact will help people across the state. That it has to be tuned to the to our linguistic needs and also to our understanding. So the preparedness of the hospitals, and as per the statement, can also be seen and has also been surmised by the honourable member from Mampati. But then, sir, I have not heard any kind of meetings held with headmen, meetings that need to be conducted at various schools in the rural areas across the state. Marketplaces are still not sanitized, are still not being informed properly. People, especially in Ribhoi district, if you look at the statement that has been placed to this, or the answer that has been placed to this question, Ribhoi district is missing. Maybe the district administration has still not been alerted, or maybe the meeting that has been called also is not recorded here. But then I think that is the most vulnerable district, sir. We are the closest to Assam. All the people are coming to our district. All the foreign nationals that come also transit through our district. So it's just a matter of time, sir. I think maybe by this evening or tomorrow, alert sound should be given to the Ribhoi district as well, so that we will be able to take measures at all our dispensaries, CHCs and PHCs in Ribhoi district. Barnihat is very, very important, sir. And if there are no kind of efforts taken to alert our team there, which is actually at the gateway of our state, this very thing needs to be recorded, and I think the government should take concrete action. So there are some suggestions also, maybe the helpline. Some people say that the helplines that were informed or maybe disseminated by the central government, they were not working. The testing centers, as we have heard, they send the samples to Calcutta, and by the time they come back, maybe at the time of sending the sample, the disease may not have been showing itself, but then after the samples come, then perhaps the disease may have attacked the person, because these are outside the state. And having only one center in the state, sir, I think that shows lack of preparedness also. So maybe we have to think on this for various district headquarters, especially our CHCs. So, apart from these, maybe the pandemic can be stopped with a lot of effort to sensitize people and give them much more awareness. Our newspapers, and we read, the only advertisements and publicity that we get is from the union government. That is the only thing. So press releases, as we have seen, only 2, but then this is the most crucial week, as I had said, the 4th week, and we are moving into the 4th week and the 5th week. So I think we need to really pull up our socks and ensure that the preparedness does not go the same pace that we have seen in the past 2 weeks ahead. So with these few words, maybe the Honourable Minister may like to also elucidate on the other efforts that the government would be taking in the next few days, sir. With these few words, sir, I resume my seat.
Now, this whole global pandemic of COVID-19, every government of the day across the world, they are seized with the issue. And from their experiences, I think we stand to learn. The experiences of China, experiences of Italy, Spain, many other nations. I think that's how we need to learn, and based on which, and even the past history of how when the epidemic broke and how the global pandemic actually really challenged the whole system, whole governance across the world. I think those are few sources of inputs for us based on which we must deal with the situation. And if we go by the past history and the present prevailing situation, that is being dealt with by the concerned respective governments. It revolves around how to contain the virus from spreading further. And the most effective instrument has been a timely decision. A timely decision to enforce and to put in place drastic measures. That's what is needed. Extraordinary situation requires extraordinary measures. Therefore, in spite of what we have done, even as a nation, I think we acted a little late, because by the time the virus started spreading across the globe, people who were the inbound passengers coming from different countries, including our own citizens, they are not subjected to quarantine. The normal checking up of any likely symptom, and then people were led to go to their respective home without further advisory. That is where we have made mistake. Because where is the virus coming from? The virus is coming from outside the country. Therefore, the first thing should have been to look at that angle, how we can actually prevent the virus from entering. Entering? How? Because the man-to-man contact is the mode of transmission. And we can also look at the complacency with which some nations really address the situation or dealt with the situation. I think the best example will be Spain. And as a nation, they're bearing the brunt of that complacency and the result of inaction. I think we are fortunate that not even one single positive case has been reported so far. Therefore, when is the time to act? The time to act is now, when we are yet to have any case. Because once the case comes and then we know, okay, it's spreading, even though we try, we will be in a similar kind of situation. That is one part. That's why I think we should decide collectively in the best interest of the state and the people. We are concerned about the vulnerable group who ultimately succumb to the virulence of this disease, mainly the people who have the predisposed medical conditions and also the otherwise senior citizens, the elderly people. And we are privileged that God has been kind with better longevity. People today have a longevity, and then expected life expectancies have gone up. But then it is because we have been able to create an environment that was perceived as healthy for even the elderly to live long. But this is under challenge now. We are facing this challenge. As I look at the different measures that need to be put in place, is that are we then really prepared if the disease strikes? How prepared are we? The decision of Government of India to actually invoke the provision of the National Disaster Management Act is precisely to enable the states and the country to deal with this as a challenge of natural calamity or a natural disaster. And at the same time to ensure that timely measures are taken in sync with the laid down rules. Every state has the disaster management plan. And therefore, this must be activated. Another important part is that, is the health department capable of really dealing with a situation if we have the kind of incidence of cases, positive cases coming one after another? Health department has not been able to even pay, I'm told, the pending bills for the diets in the hospital, the pending bills for the medicine, and so on and so forth. So the department has to be supported with the dedicated fund immediately. And look at the whole availability of the facilities, do some auditing, and we know for certain how prepared the respective hospitals, whether it is the Shillong Civil Hospital, Tura Civil Hospital, how many ICUs are there, we know it. We need to prepare, and to be able to prepare on timely basis. Lots of decisions are required to be taken across the table, not the usual procedure. Therefore, another part is that SDRF, State Disaster Response Fund. How much is there? Because every year's entitlement as per the award of the Finance Commission is limited. I was listening to the reply of the Honorable Minister. 119 crore is the balance, if I'm correct. Last year it was 146. In spite of the year's entitlement, the amount available with the state, we don't know when the disaster strikes. That's the reason why there has to be a dedicated fund. Now, Government of India will never give the state any fund under from the National Disaster Response Fund so long we have the balance in our own SDRF. Therefore, I would urge upon the government to have a review on this, look at how much fund is available from SDRF, if this fund is being looked at to be able to be used for this, and if it is not enough, there has to be dedicated fund. There has to be dedicated fund. You have seen how nations are responding, how dedicated fund are being already earmarked, and how legislative bodies have actually given the mandate to spend to deal with the situation. And therefore, it calls for really exhaustive, comprehensive strategy to be adopted, which will be considered as effective to deal with the situation. Now, another important thing that I look at is because across the nation, the response are coming in piecemeal by respective states. Now, what happens if because of the circumstances, situations that unfold in the days to come, some of the states have a complete shutdown, say Assam or West Bengal, we will have a serious challenge on few things. Number one, the essential commodities. United States of America, who depends on the complete import of the essential commodities, all the shelves are empty. That's what is being shown in the news. Therefore, I think seeing what is happening elsewhere, we need to look at those angles. The essential commodities, and then issue of hoarding and the exploitation, which is usually attempted to by many of the traders. Those are few things which has to be taken into consideration. Then important aspect is about the hospital, the visitors, diet, medicine. When from any family, anybody is hospitalized, what happens? Relatives, family members, they visit. And more so if there is no diet provided for the inpatient. Now, if the health department has not been able to provide, rather pay the pending bills for those who are supplying diet, I'm sure there will be some dislocation. Result will be that people will be compelled to bring food for the patient. And then you actually create that situation where you will have more contact and more exposure. Similarly, medicine. People have to go to the pharmacies, and let us remember one thing from common sense. Who go to the pharmacy? Person who has come into contact with patients. Prescription, how transmission takes place? Through the hand. And the capacity of the virus to remain alive, different surfaces, different medium in a person, all these things have to be understood. Therefore, medicines for the patients of the hospital must be made available in the hospital itself, so that patient party does not have to go to the pharmacy, get exposed. That is one part. And similarly, all those other associated things which can contain the movement of the people who are coming into contact with the patients, normal patients who must have been admitted, who are seen as a normal patient but not as a patient infected by COVID-19, but they may be. And actually what the Honorable Member from Ampati has shared is a reality actually. Today we have seen one more new case having been reported from Orissa. You look at the associated history. The person concerned has traveled by train, and now the administration is actually trying to really trace those who have come into contact. It's impossible, difficult. Even before they could be traced and put onto any kind of quarantine, whether social quarantine or an enforced quarantine, by then they must have also come across and have come into contact with other people. So this is how the virus is actually taking a toll on the nations. Therefore, since we are fortunate that till today we have not been able to detect positive case, I think it's time to decide now before the disease actually push us to the rather stretch us beyond limit, and look at how all the departments can come together and how we collectively will then effectively contribute to contain this disease and see that Meghalaya is safe. Meghalaya is safe from this virus, and maybe Meghalaya can show the way. Meghalaya can still be a state which can say that, look, we have taken proactive measures and look how we have managed, and therefore we have been able to save precious lives. Therefore, essential commodities, medicines, and at the same time, I think, looking at the whole infrastructure available with the Health and Family Welfare Department, Please create some more extra ICUs, create some more extra facilities with ventilators, because the virus becomes so virulent that the infection of the pulmonary, the parenchymal tissue with the elderly patients, they will not recover. We always know when elderly people who are admitted for any ailment, if they ultimately end up getting chest infection, what happens? Recovery becomes very difficult. Any elderly patient, whoever is admitted in hospital for any medical intervention, when the elderly patient is infected and they have a pulmonary infection, we see high mortality. And that's the reason why I would like to humbly submit, take it as a challenge, but take it as a battle that we can win. And we'll be there together. And appropriate advisories must be given. Based on the whole model that is available to deal with the disaster, I think you already have the whole format. District level, the DC is the chairman of the District Disaster Management Authority. We do also have the village disaster management committees. So all those things can be activated and look at how best we can utilize this format available and how appropriate amount of fund can be dedicated for this purpose to deal with this. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Sir, thank you for giving the time, but as moved by the Honourable Member from Ampati and from Roy and our Honourable Leader of the Opposition, I think we have discussed in length about the necessity for the government to activate its resources to the departments and other line departments to ensure that this is curtailed at the earliest, so that we don't face the consequences and brunt as has been faced by the other countries and states as a whole. I thank you, sir, for this time you've given us.
Hima Shamplian, please.
Honourable Speaker, I'll be very brief, sir. Yesterday, it was a Sunday. I was shocked to see this newspaper at the Highland Post, sir, which I have a copy with me. It says, is Meghalaya ready to handle outbreak of COVID-19? Then again I see another big headline which says, Health Ministry framing guidelines on handling of COVID-19 casualties. I'm glad, sir, that this adjournment motion has been brought today to discuss this very important issue of whether Meghalaya is ready to handle the outbreak of COVID-19. Well, sir, we have had quite a lot of suggestions given by our honourable members, and I fully endorse and am on the same page with the suggestions made by my senior colleague, the Leader of Opposition. And I'll just add on a few more suggestions. The suggestions would go to the Honourable Minister, Health, and to the government as well. So most of us in this August House represent the rural public. We come from the rural areas, and therefore, what measures should we take to protect our people in the rural areas? We have a problem, sir, that once a week our rural people do have a weekly market. Now, when we have a weekly market, how prepared is the government to disseminate this kind of information to the rural mass? Because the weekly market is a place of gathering. There will be more than hundreds and thousands of people who come to these weekly markets, and how could they prevent themselves from this particular virus? This is a big challenge for us and for the government as well, and I hope the government will devise a method through the public health centers that we have, or the primary health centers, or the health sub-centers, where enough publicity, enough awareness campaigns should be taken up to make the people aware about this particular virus in the rural areas. Right now, most of the rural people who are privy to their iPhones or to their Android phones, they are making fun and comical comments about this particular disease. They're not really concerned nor aware of the impact that this particular virus is going to cause. Therefore, the government may kindly concentrate in the publicity and the public awareness of both the urban and the rural areas. I would also like to suggest that immediately a control room may be opened in every district. A control room is a must where the particular helpline number would be available, but just not a call, but a designated location to be publicized where it is designated as a control room. The third suggestion would be, sir, that NAGRIMS, being one of the very important medical facility center for the Northeast, may also be requested to provide necessary medical supports if required, and also to provide that kind of a support for testing the samples. And in every district headquarter, may I suggest that there should be a designated testing center to be opened. And I also would endorse what a leader of opposition had mentioned, which I also had noted a point relating to essential commodities. People may be alerted to stock and to store enough foodstuffs because of this particular lockdown. So I'm slightly disappointed to see in this report of the Honourable Minister that Sora CHC and the Nongpo Civil Hospital, the medical superintendents have been directed to identify space for location of patients if required. I do not understand the meaning of if required. How can a hospital like in Nongpo, which is on the highway, be given this kind of option that you may identify a space for isolation of patients if required? This may kindly be clarified by the Honourable Minister. And before I resume my seat, sir, there is a very important suggestion which I would like to suggest to the Honourable Minister and to the government as well. Sir, the last three days back, there was a very big meeting in Delhi, which was headed by the Cabinet Secretary. I don't know whether our Chief Secretary is aware about the outcome of this particular meeting. So a decision was taken in this meeting headed by the Cabinet Secretary, where it had directed all the states and the Union Territory to invoke the provisions of the Section 2 of the Epidemic Diseases Act 1897, which will make the Health Ministry advisories enforceable, sir. There are a lot of facilities that the Health Ministry will provide to a state if that particular state invokes Section 2 of the Epidemic Diseases Act 1897, sir. So this act was introduced by the British in 1897 to fight the bubonic plague epidemic that has spread in the former Bombay Presidency. So I hope the government will consider and will examine to invoke the Section 2 of this particular Act 1897. With this few words, sir, I resume my seat. Thank you so much.
Kong Amperin.
Honourable Speaker, sir, I also rise to participate in the motion for adjournment under Rule 56 that has been tabled on a very important matter this morning, sir. In fact, I had also scheduled a question on the same matter. I would like to thank the Honourable Health Minister and the Department as a whole for the information that they have provided us on the statement that was laid by the Honourable Minister. I have seen here that there are IECs being prepared by the Department in local dialects, all made ready for public consumption as early as February 17th, February 24th. So IECs have become very important at this point of time, so I would lay my stress on this. I think the Department of Health needs to handle two kinds of fears at the moment. Public has two fears. One is the fear of the disease itself, and one is the fear of the panic that arises out of this disease. So as a parent, two of my children are on their way back home, one from Jodhpur and one from Delhi. Now, as a parent and as a legislator of this Honorable House, I myself don't know how to quarantine my kids. If tomorrow I have to take my children for a testing, where do I go? So if that information is also not within my own reach and purview, then I can't imagine what happens to the other children of so many families where we've seen that they're all now rushing back home because their institutions have been closed and their cities have been seen as vulnerable. So in the second scare that is going to arise out of this COVID-19 virus, as the Honorable LO has correctly highlighted, there will be a panic and there will be a rush for the procurement of essential commodities for families across the state. I request the Health Department to not just work on the addressing of this virus just on their own in isolation. I am aware that a task team has been constituted, but this task team has to reach to the last village and the last mile in the state. So this is something we need to do, both for food supply as well as medical supply. I was very curious. Being in the opposition, we are not privy to so many decisions that government takes or so many discussions that government engages in. So like my colleague Bahima Shangpriang, I also depend a lot on newspaper coverage. And I have seen that about 61 students of Meghalaya have come back from China. Now I'd like to know what was the kind of quarantine that was advised to these 61 students, and what is the status of all of the 61 students? Because I've been told in subsequent press mention that there are more than 61 students coming from China alone, which is the host country where this entire virus broke out. Sir, I am very concerned from press reports to read about the kind of protection we are giving to care providers. I've read the same news report that our member from Mausan Ram has also referred to, that Negrims itself is not ready, and the care providers themselves have become vulnerable to this big threat of requirements in such a pandemic situation. So the PPE circulation across the state seems inadequate, as was itself indicated by the statement that the Honorable Health Minister had laid on the floor of the House. So when you look at ventilators, so the first manifestation or the first sign and symptom, clinical sign for patients attacked by this virus, the clinical features include fever, dry cough, fatigue, sputum production, shortness of breath, sore throat. So, sir, here we are seeing that these are very common symptoms where anyways at this point of a change of weather in our state, with so many patients who are anyways allergic to all of these. So the moment you say fever, I have a fever, there may be a high possibility that a parent or a patient will go into complete panic. So they will be rushing, and then the care providers will equally be conditioned to the same kind of panic. So the PPE is very, very important here because we are told from newspaper reports that even in civil hospital, Shillong, in Negrims, these facilities have not been provided. So I would like to request the Health Department to circulate some samples of the IECs that have been prepared by the department, because at this point of time, I am made to understand that we are in phase 3 of the virus attack, which means that social containment has become completely invariable for all states and all nations. Now, what are the kinds of advisories are we circulating in these IECs become very, very important. And we need to make sure that the heat thermal scanners, I don't know how many heat thermal scanners do we have with the Department of Health in the government of Meghalaya today, because the heat thermal scanners would automatically distance further break of the outbreak of the virus. So I would like to inquire from the Honorable Health Minister whether these heat thermal scanners would also be placed in strategic locations, because the moment these scanners are placed there, immediately there will be an alert of any probable manifestation of any one of these signs, clinical features. So the other thing that I would like the Department of Health to focus on is the fact that there is a need for medical advisory even for other patients who are under various medications. I've just been alerted that AACE inhibitors, ibuprofen and other drugs in the usage of hypertension have also been advised to be taken out of the market, because there is a high probability that these kinds of drugs for these kinds of patients would in some way invariably amplify the virus and continue to make it a threat situation for all of us. Sir, I stress on what most of the colleagues have said. There should be no further delay in enforcing restrictions. I'm happy to see that press note and a notification that has come out from the Department of Health for the residents of the state of Meghalaya. However, I am wondering what is going to happen to government offices, because our state, we have maximum numbers of employees in the government sector. So what is the kind of necessary intervention that we will place for government employees, because till the last that I read, the notification that has not been identified. Sir, please, Honorable Speaker, sir, I would like the Health Department to come out with a specific IEC for self-declaration counters, because I don't know how many, if tomorrow my daughter comes from Delhi and my son comes from Jodhpur, where do I take them for screening? Because I also have a minor in my house who's just 3 years old. So we would like to find very important, necessary information also being circulated. And this is the correct time, sir, to also utilize the IPR public announcements and make sure that everybody knows what is going on. Sir, I also feel that there needs to be a clear IEC sent out so that there is no unnecessary panic for residents at large. We need to find out that if I have a fever, it may not be the virus. So we need to know that we are sure, so that this panic doesn't expand itself and does not become something more threatening than the virus itself. With these few observations, sir, I resume my seat, and I would like to know whether the Department of Health also has the VTMs, because the VTMs are the systemic, transportation of all the tests, the blood tests and everything. And I would like the Health Department to particularly contain bio-waste and its refuse. Thank you, sir. With these few words, I resume my seat.
We have 2 more members only. So kindly restrict to 5 minutes each, please. Mirror Bond.
Thank you, sir, for allowing me to participate in this very important adjournment motion that's been brought by a colleague. Sir, since this dangerous virus has been spreading all over the globe. There has been panic all around. We have seen countries all over the world running from pillar to post, try to find out solution, how to diffuse this dangerous virus. In our state also, we have seen panic. Public has been panicking. Last 1 to 2 days, when we went to the pharmacy to buy sanitizer, it is out of stock. When we try to find out a mask, it is out of stock. And there are some pharmacies who took advantage also of selling at high rate. This is happening. So in this critical situation, all of us, we have to put our heads together to try to find out the solution. So if we go to the urban area, many of us, we are aware how to get rid, how to see, to find out the solution, and to isolate ourselves from this virus. But if we go to the rural areas, there are so many who are still ignorant. What is this virus? What is that COVID-19? We can see in our state there are more than 50% who are not access to mobile, who are not access to internet. They are not access to any information. And more than 50%, 40% of our population, they do not read newspaper. They do not read any kind of information that has been circulated around. So I want to bring to the notice of the House through you to the Health Department, to the government, and at the same time to the Department of the IPR, to the Department of Disaster Revenue Department, who are looking after the disaster management within the state. A proper awareness has to be conducted immediately at the village level. DCs, BDOs has to be instructed. Department has to be instructed. The IPR official has to be on the move. They have to be on the toes to make a public announcement, especially in the rural areas. Because yesterday, in a church gathering, I met so many people. When we try to talk about this virus, so many, they are ignorant. They don't know what is this COVID-19. So if they don't know, means they don't know how to take care also. So that's why we need a proper awareness at the ground, where so many of our people, population are there, so that they will be aware, and the government has to be proactive. And I would like to thank the Health Department, which has been proactive, and all the other departments also. I would like to urge to be prepared for this, because all of us, we don't know what is going to happen. So I would like to thank the department, and we urge the government to work hard so that we can overcome this kind of viruses, because we know here we are at the stage of panicking, but as a good, all of us as a believer of God, irrespective of so many belief, church, faith, let us pray to God also, because what the Bible has said, it has started to become to be true. So we have to be prepared. The government has to be prepared. Each and every one of us, in our heart and our soul also, we have to be prepared. Let us pray for our state, for our nation, for the globe only, so that we can get rid of this dangerous virus. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Badal, please.
I, first of all, thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for giving me this opportunity to raise and to take part in this very vital issue. So at the very beginning, I would like to thank all the members, especially the initiator, who had brought this issue in this August House, for which I believe this is not only August House, this is the temple of the democracy. Sir, before I proceed ahead, I would like to remind what you have said, that only 5 minutes. I stand here not because of compulsion, not because it is my duty bound, but because of the issue of responsibility. So I do hope that you, every honorable members of this August House will agree with me. If you talk about different issues, influx, employment, boundary, ILP, CAA, what else more? These all are important, but what is much, much important, I feel in my part, that this issue is vital for each and every one. The issue of responsibility is crucial, is extremely crucial. So I won't take much of my time, since every members of this August House had already highlighted their views and opinion. Myself personally, I feel that the need of the hour, as what it said, the prevention is better than cure. What preventive measures that the government has already in mind? What I feel that the direct action from the government itself should block and should restrict all type of citizen who are intent to enter into our beloved state, because this is a state which everybody knows the fact that this is a paradise state. Everybody will take advantage. From every nook and corner they will come and settle in this very beloved state. So we don't want to get affected. So because of that, sir, I believe that let us take this seriously as a truly important thing. The threat, the need, the threat, and the solution. Let's work out in this three issue. How to exercise the primitive measures so that this virus will not be allowed to enter into our state. So, as I have mentioned, that there will be a high possibility of every human being to enter into this beloved state. Let's not just feel satisfied that the government of the day had took the decision that all school institution, all gathering program will be shut down. That I feel that we are escaped from the problem. We should face the problem. Let's take this as a challenge for each and every one of us. This will not be a solution. So what I feel that the immediate effective awareness should start up immediately without further delay. That is one part, and I do feel that awareness should be conducted at a high acceleration speed, whatever speed can be. From the government. Okay, sir, I will not take much of my time. So I think this opportunity. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And I will issue my seat.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I also rise to support and
with a special request, confined to 5 minutes, please.
Okay, yeah. I also rise to support and participate in the adjournment motion moved by Srimati Miani Shira and George Bilindo regarding the corona outbreak. Sir, being a doctor, only I will share few things amongst us regarding the seriousness of this COVID-19. Mainly, sir, we have three issues: health issues, economy issues, and the psychological effect. Just I want to share, being a doctor, few things, because we have families, we are having children, wife, relatives. At home, sometimes we confused with the seasonal flu. Few things, sir, I would like to bring it to the notice of this house. Sir, the hospitalization rate for COVID-19 is 10 to 15%, with roughly 5% requiring ICU, whereas seasonal flu is only 0.5%. Furthermore, the death rate of the seasonal flu is 0.0%, and COVID-19 is over 30 times more, that is 3.4%. Number one. Number two, such seasonal flu related deaths are usually not only from seasonal flu. It has other secondary bacterial infection. But in case of COVID-19, on the other hand, it is called as ARS COVID-2, which stands for Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome, where the lungs start filling up with fluid from inflammation. And it is far more dangerous and far more difficult to treat. Number three, we have vaccine for the seasonal flu, which reduces the severity of its spread and impact every year. But sir, for COVID-19, we don't have any vaccine. Number four, the basic reproduction number of seasonal flu is only 1.3. And this COVID virus is 3, with some fluctuation, meaning it is much more contagious. So seasonal flu is epidemic, but this coronavirus or COVID-19 is pandemic. It rapidly spreads around the whole world and causing this devastating impact. Sir, we have studied flu for decades, so we know much more about it and how to treat it compared to COVID-19. So these are the issues, because being a doctor, I also receive call from the public, from the people. There is a lots of confusion regarding this seasonal flu and this COVID virus. So I just shared these few points. And regarding economy, we sir all know, now I think Mukesh Ambani is also no more the ACS richest man. The BSA, Sensex, all Bombay Stock Exchange, all has gone down. It has affected the economy of the whole world. And our friend Ma Adalbert and Ma Maralbon said regarding the advisory, preventive measures. Please, my request to the health minister, please pass the necessary advisory to the Gaumburas, Nokmas, and then church leaders, temple leaders, and mosque leaders, so that at least we can prevent this disease. Once it infects, sir, even the diagnostic part also is very risky. Even for the doctors, even for the staffs who are engaged in the testing, it is risky for them also, sir. So God's grace, we don't have a single positive case in the state of Meghalaya. I humbly request, please take serious note of this regarding COVID-19 outbreak. Thank you. With this submission, I would take my seat, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. It seems that there's no more members to participate. So, Minister or Chief Minister? Chief Minister, please.
Sir, at the very outset, I would like to take this opportunity to thank our different honorable members who have participated in this adjournment motion, namely Mrs. Mimi Dishira, Mr. George Lingdo, the Leader of Opposition, Dr. Bakul Sangma, Mr. Charles Pindrop, Mr. Hima Shampliang, Dr. Amprin Lingdo, Shri Merylborn, Shri Edelbert Nongrum, and Dr. Azad. And I'm sure many other people would have liked to participate, but because of the fact that we have many more subjects to also discuss, and most of the points that have been mentioned are important as well as common in nature. Therefore, sir, I will try to address as many of the concerns as possible. Sir, at the very outset, I think we also need to realize that yes, absolutely, this is a situation which is very critical. And the reason the situation is critical is mainly because of the fact that the way this particular virus is spreading, and more importantly, the kind of psychological impact it has on people, and obviously that leads to a lot of activities being curtailed. Like, for example, we had to decide to postpone the session that we're having, close down the schools, in spite of the fact that there is not a single case, by God's grace, not a single case in our state of Meghalaya. Yet, because of the psychological impact and obviously because of the fact that we need to take precaution in this aspect, and timing is very important, we had to take this call. So just to add to what Dr. Azad has mentioned, I think he being a doctor, he has really put a lot of the factual points ahead. But just to give a basic idea about certain data and information that has come out in the last few days. Again, sir, these data and information are very small in the sense that it's been just 3 to 4 months. So it's not indicative of really what this virus could ultimately be. But based on whatever data has been collected till now, this is what has come in front of the world. That the biggest aspect about this virus is the fact that its transmission rate is very high. The transmission rate on an average is expected that it is at 42% is the transmission rate. And when it affects an individual, we have seen that in a percentage basis at a global level, the effects are mild in 81% of the cases, severe in 14% of the cases, and critical in 5% of the cases. At the same time, the mortality rate has differed from country to country, but on an average, China has seen a 4% mortality rate, and globally, we have seen a 2% mortality rate. And this has affected, obviously, people with lesser immunity. So people who are more elderly are more susceptible to this kind of, this particular virus. So therefore, this is just to give a basic idea about the situation globally that's happening. And just to give some facts about it, because sometimes a lot of people fear that getting this virus means that the person will die. So I think that kind of course, a mindset I think is not correct. We need to ensure that this should not be, spread in the wrong way. Of course, it does not mean that we don't take it seriously. We take it very seriously. But I think the facts should come out that globally the mortality rate has been 2%, which of course is not at a point where it's like a Ebola virus, which is at least at a 90%, 80% mortality rate, but nonetheless a big concern for each and every one of us. So having said that, in the past few weeks, we have been very closely monitoring the situation, sir. And as been rightly mentioned by everybody, a lot of it is not shared in the public domain because these are cases and these are issues which at sometimes certain steps we take do end up creating panic also, sir. So we need to, as a government, balance out between awareness
and taking the right measures and steps, at the same time ensuring that there is a overall order in the system so that things don't go beyond a certain panic level, sir. So this balance is what at the most of the time the government tries to balance out, sir. Sir, having said that, let me just try to address some of the very, very critical points that have been mentioned by all the members, and I would like to place on record I would like to thank the members for bringing out very, very good suggestions. I can tell them that I have noted those suggestions myself, and I'm sure the officials out here have also done the same. Sir, I don't want to go into details about the history of how things started of this virus in the country and in India, and maybe the situations that unfolded in our state. But I will just touch on a few issues which I thought were very, very important and for people to know. So number one, I think the first instance where we really faced a challenge was on 30th of January 2020, where we had students from China who had returned. Just to put on record, sir, these were students from different countries who had returned, mostly in the medical profession, medical students. There were 44 of them from China, 2 from Singapore, 13 from Thailand, 3 from Japan, 1 from Hong Kong, 1 from Australia, 2 from Germany, 4 from UAE, 1 from Malaysia, 2 from UK, and 1 from Italy, sir. And after these students, they came in, sir, they were all screened, and at the same time, their entire medical history was taken, and they were told to go for self-quarantine. And out of the 74, sir, 57 have completed 28 days of being in isolation. In fact, all of them have completed the 28 days of isolation. And but still there are about 17 who are under observation, and till date, by God's grace, none of them have shown any symptoms of having any kind of impact or any effect in terms of the virus, sir. So therefore, we are monitoring the students every day. From the day they came in, the department has been calling them every day, sir. So therefore, these kind of information, of course, we did not want to share openly, but just to give a reassurance to the people, it's not that we were not following, sir. We were following, and as I said, almost all of them have completed the 28 days, and we have seen no symptoms in each one of them, and we are calling them even now on a daily basis to ensure that they are okay, sir. Sir, yes, there were some concerns about some of the preparedness that is required, sir. Just to inform, some of the members had mentioned about having different kind of control rooms in the states in the district, and sir, in almost all of the districts, in some cases jointly also, the control room has already been set up, and the contact numbers and the nodal officer has already been identified. Apart from that, sir, the different isolation beds based on different districts have already been done, sir. And of course, as was rightly pointed out, we do have shortage of ventilators with the isolation beds with ventilators, and this is an aspect that the department is looking into. But isolation wards without ventilators, we have 102 of them, and obviously, sir, this is a point that we need to definitely look into. One does not expect that a situation like this comes up. So this is an emergency situation which came up, and therefore from the department side, necessary response will be there to ensure that more arrangements are made in the respective districts, especially when it comes to the ventilation part is also taken care of. So there was also concern regarding the basic materials that are available to the health workers, and so that is an issue also that we have been working on. From our side, sir, just to inform everyone that the PPEs, which is the personal protection equipments, 50,000 of them have already been ordered. The N95 masks, so these also have already been ordered. 50,000 pieces of N95 masks have been ordered, sir, and N95 masks, just for the knowledge of all our members in the House. Sir, is a 95 protection from particles up to the size of 0.3 microns. At the same time, sir, the 3-ply masks, which basically is a 3-layered mask that protects from droplet transmissions from the person wearing it. We have ordered 6 lakh of these. Ventilators, so we have ordered 32 more ventilators. Sanitizers, 6 lakhs. And surgical gloves, 20 lakhs. And thermal scanners, we have ordered 11 of them. 1 already is in place, sir, and 10 more are on the way. At the same time, sir, just to inform, the Nigrims has already been identified as one of the testing centers, and therefore the testing is taking place there. And I think in the entire northeast region, I think Nigrims has been identified as one. I am not very, very sure if there is any other one in the entire northeast as of now. So therefore, the Nigrims has taken a quick step. The government, state government has also taken quick steps, and we've been able to notify Nigrims as a testing center. Though I must put on record, sir, there are 2 aspects to testing, because I think this is something that the people should know, that they can declare negative tests. They can declare negative tests, but for positive tests, the same has to be confirmed by the National Institute of Virology, which is in Pune. And the other testing centers, of course, closest is Kolkata. So, so that is also one of the issues that was thing. So one of the scanners I was mentioning, the thermal scanners, it's there just to again add to the concerns of our members, and just so that I can clarify, so that thermal scanners, sir, can only detect if the patient is having fever or not. So it cannot it's not a diagnostic tool for the coronavirus infection as such. So for that, we have to go to the test. But obviously, high fever is one of the main symptoms, so 88% of the symptoms that have been done in most of the people who have got coronavirus, 88% of them have high fever. So clearly, it is one of the biggest symptoms. Cough is 65% of the cases have cough, 38% have fatigueness, and so on and so forth, sir. So therefore, thermal scanners are obviously one very, very good mechanism to ensure that we can, we can have we can test that, we can at least get an idea, sir, about the patients. Sir, at the same time, as I said, sir, it's very difficult for me to go into all the aspects. There was a concern that was raised by some of our members of the House regarding the overall IEC. And, sir, I think, let me also put it on record. We have been, in fact, doing quite a bit of IEC programs, but IEC programs, as much as you do, it's never enough, sir, because we need to get this message across to the entire state, and some being very, very disconnected and at far-flung areas, it is a challenge to get across. So from the government side, many different steps are being taken. For example, sir, there was a general advisory for the public which has been made in local language also, and this has been sent to many different parts of the districts and the subdivisions, and as in many locations put on in public display in important locations. Apart from that, we have also tried to use social media as one very important aspect. Videos have been made regarding this particular issue for the IEC. So therefore, these are the different kind of activities. We have used FM radio also to send the message. So therefore, sir, we will continue to come out with more innovative ways to ensure that more and more of this information can go to the public at large. The Education Department, along with the Health Department, is also working on innovative mechanisms where the children can be involved in creating this awareness, because children are a very, very strong way of really communicating to their families, and these will come out in the next few days also. Just to reply also to some of the queries that were mentioned by some of the members regarding what an individual should do. Now, sir, there are many things, so it will be impossible for me to specifically say it because I don't have those information with me on what specifically somebody should do if something happens. But as a state government and as a department, the toll-free number of 108 has been already activated. And through this 108, whatever information you require, whether it is where to get the testing done, what should we do in quarantine. So this is a 24/7 call center helpline service that has been activated at 108, and we are trying our best to ensure that we strengthen it even further so that it becomes a one point of contact for any individual who may have any questions, because the questions can be at different levels, and I think it will be impossible for me to come up with all the points here, though I have some replies to some of them. But I think the best way to inform everybody would be that 108 number would be the toll-free number for any query that you have, where to get the testing, how to take precautions. And in the do's and don'ts that we have given in this advisory, sir, most of the aspects are already there. We are also trying to convert this. We already have converted it into a video, but we will ensure that more innovative ways through social media are also taken up to ensure that the information is sent to the public at large, sir. Sir, apart from that, I think the Honorable Minister had mentioned when he gave his statement earlier during the day that we have been having a number of discussions. And yesterday at about 5 o'clock, we had a meeting in my residence to discuss some part of this issue with the Health Minister, after which at about 8 o'clock, the Health Minister called a meeting at his residence along with the Education Minister and all the officials of the Health and Education Department. And that's when they had decided that, that the schools, colleges, and the details of the advisories, which I don't think I need to read out, about different social gatherings and all these aspects, will also be curtailed, and people will be advised not to go into different kind of social gatherings and avoid it for the time being, till we can assess the situation further, sir. So therefore, these steps have been taken immediately, and right after the session today is adjourned, sir, we will be having another meeting at my level, and all the officials from the health, education, as well as the Home Department and other concerned departments like Revenue, Disaster. We will be having another meeting to look into the other aspects of what other measures we could take, based also on the discussions that we had in the House today, will also be taken up, sir. Sir, I will not go one by one into the points specifically mentioned by the individuals, but I'm just trying to touch on whatever is possible at this point in time. So some of the members mentioned about ensuring that the headmans were also consulted and included, sir. And in fact, would like to just inform the House that sir, on the 11th of March 2020, Deputy Commissioner of East Khasi Hills had already convened a meeting with all the Rangbashnongs at Shillong, sir, and its suburbs also. And almost discussion went on for about 2 hours, and they were apprised about the entire situation and different steps to be taken. And similar such activities by the respective DCs are being done in different districts, and they have been asked to ensure that this kind of an awareness by the Deputy Commissioner, not just with the Rangbashnongs, but also with schools, with different kind of organizations, can be taken up. And I think a very good suggestion came out about the marketplaces. Definitely, sir, I think marketplaces are areas where we can give such kind of disperse more of this information that is there. And at the same time, we also need to take precaution when we are in such gatherings that are there, sir. So there was a mention about the SDRF fund that is there, that government has now come out with the notification allowing or notifying this as a disaster and allowing the state governments to use the funds. So just for the knowledge of the House, that the SDRF funds are, of course, when the question was earlier raised, we didn't get enough opportunity to clarify on all the aspects. But sir, close to almost in the last 3 years, so there has been, in fact, quite a large amount of utilization. Almost about 56 crores was utilized in 2017-18, 2018-19 about 58 crores, and in 2019-20 about 47 crores already has been utilized. In respect to the actual allocation, which is only half the amount. So the last 14th Finance Commission had given on an average about 20 to 25 crores per year, whereas our utilization has been more than that at about 50 crores. But because we had some overlapping funds from the 13th Finance Commission, we managed to survive there. But at the same time, what Honorable LO was referring to about the 116 crores, so this is an additional fund that we have asked for, keeping in mind the different situations that we faced. But nonetheless, sir, SDRF funds will be one of the sources that are there. We have to tap into all the different kind of funds, whether it's from NHM, or whether it's from states fund for other things. We'll need to work out a mechanism in which necessary budgetary provisions will have to be made. And after discussion with the finance department and with the health department, we have currently earmarked a corpus of 5 crores to ensure that whatever steps have to be taken are taken to ensure that precautionary measures are taken, and as per requirement, the amount can be increased at a later stage, sir. Sir, I think most of the points that were mentioned by almost all the members worked around this. I think last point, which is important, of course, is about the essential commodities. And I also agree with our members that this, of course, is an issue in any kind of situation. This is something that we always activate all our deputy commissioners. It's not just in a situation like this where we are having a health concern, but even in law and order situation, essential commodities is obviously one of the primary aspects for us. Coming to the essential commodities, like for example, sir, the hand sanitizers and the masks. There are some business, houses, or I should say individuals, some, I should say, not all, who may be taking advantage of, the demand in the market and trying to hoard. So we are also taking steps to declare some of these products as essential commodities so that hoarding becomes illegal. And so that step also will be taken. We hope that with that, the supply of these products will also go up, as we have already, I've already informed the House that we have asked for different, quantity of these different products to come in. So sanitizers, almost 6 lakh units have been ordered. So they are on their way, sir. We hope that, I think as soon as tomorrow, we are expecting some of the critical equipments and supplies to come in. And of course, all will not come in one day. We will see slowly and steadily the supplies coming in. And of course, sir, we will also, as a government, we are aware that in situations like these, basic essential commodities like food and other items that are required are also something that could be in short supply. Sometimes it happens because people themselves panic and they try to hoard themselves in the house. So that also leads to it. So we are also aware of the situation, and the district administration as well as all the departments have been asked to keep a watch on this. And in today's meeting, necessary decisions and steps will be taken to ensure that all those issues also are addressed and concerns are taken care of, sir. Sir, of course, I don't want to go into the medical part of it. We had 2 doctors who spoke. I think they are much more qualified than me to speak on those subjects. And in fact, I was telling our LO that, he wanted me to sit and discuss more with him. So I said that with you and with Dr. Azad, they are going to speak about this in medical terms. I may have to go for a short-term medical class with my, my medical officers before I reply to this particular motion. So, sir, that was on a light note, but it's a very important issue, sir. And let me assure the House and assure our citizens, sir, that we as a government are taking every step to ensure that our citizens are protected, sir. This is a very critical situation. It is something that requires everybody to work together. But the most important part, sir, in this situation is to keep a strong mind. We should not panic, sir. We should not panic. And, if somebody sneezes in the room, nowadays people start getting scared. So that's the kind of psychological impact that have. To the extent that I have tried to stop sneezing only myself because I'm scared that, something might happen. So it's like that, sir. So I think it's very critical that as leaders, of the state, I think it's important to instill the confidence in the people. We should know our facts also. Sometimes we end up being over cautious, which I shouldn't say over cautious because it is necessary, but we should see the impact of that over cautiousness in the minds of the people who are in front of us, because we say something and then they take it in another way, which scares them so much that that it just throws the entire system off course. So therefore, I think it's very important so that we don't panic. This is a very serious situation. We are working towards ensuring that every step is taken. Of course, there are many challenges, sir. I don't want to hide or shy away from that fact that there are challenges. This kind of situation, to some extent, has been unprecedented for nations. Forget states, sir. Today, Italy has got shortage of beds because they just, they don't know what to do. So therefore, sir, this situation has gripped the globe and world as a whole, where many developed nations are finding it difficult to cope with the situation. So therefore, we know the challenges, sir. We are working towards trying to do as much as we can. But as was mentioned earlier, sir, that by God's grace, we have, there's not a single person who's infected in our state. And this is the correct time for us to take preventive measures. If the next 2 to 3 weeks can go off in a very smooth manner, and we are able to have a structured quarantine system where we request people to avoid crowded places, I think we'll be able to really narrow down on all the possibility of this really spreading across. But sir, nonetheless, we have to be cautious, and I can assure once again the House and the citizens that as a government, we are taking all steps that are possible to ensure that we contain the situation, sir. I would like to, on record, sir, thank all our members, especially the BAC and yourself, sir, for really taking this situation also very seriously and postponing this session. I think it's very important. We have asked all the other organizations and people to avoid crowded places. And I think if we don't practice what we preach, then I think it may be taken in the wrong context. So therefore, it was very important, and I think a quick decision was taken today to adjourn the House, and I think that's a very positive thing. We'll be meeting, sir, just only on 19th because at least we need to clear some of the financial issues that are there. So therefore, sir, I think I have tried to cover almost all the points. There were many other small issues that came up regarding financials of pending bills. Sir, all those issues we are looking into. There were other issues of Nongpo area. There was mentioned that isolation wards were not there, sir, but there are 3 isolation wards already in Nongpo, and we are working on ensuring that more such wards are created. Advisories to the government employees also is something we'll be discussing today, and we'll be taking a call on how we should move forward, because the government functioning is also critical, and it cannot be something that we can completely stop, sir. So we'll have to look at that aspect, and we'll see how to minimize the risk at the overall government level also for the government employees. And sir, I'm sorry, sir, there's so many points, so I try to cover as many. And if there are any concerns that I could not touch on right now, I'd be happy to obviously speak to our MLAs one-to-one also, of course, at a distance of 1 meter. So yeah, that's the only thing, that's my only condition, sir. So we can do that, and so I tried my best, sir, to reply to this. And once again, I thank all the members who participated in this debate, and I think even those who did not participate also, sir, I'm sure all of us are concerned about this, sir. So once again, with these few clarifications, and once again thanking each and everyone who participated, sir, I would like to resume my seat, sir.
The challenge before us is not an extraordinary challenge, and we are witnessing what's happening elsewhere. Therefore, I think social distancing is crucial, and what type of decision is required and when is the issue. I think we stand that it must be immediate. It must be immediate. So please take into consideration this issue as you review the situation and take a decision. Let the decision be decisive, and I feel that yes, drastic measures are required. The another important thing is that this whole health sanitizer issue. There's some kind of complacency of thinking that okay, we have used hand sanitizer and so I'm disinfected. But unless the disinfectant has at least an isopropyl alcohol content of not less than 70%, it will not have bactericidal and biocidal effect. Therefore, 70% above is the ideal thing. That is one part. And another part is that now we can't insulate ourselves from people from coming and meeting, including the offices. So can there be a mechanism? As you discussed, I would like to leave behind this suggestion. Let at the entry of every office, there be some facility for sanitizing the hand and entering. Because they'll be holding the railing of the staircases, your lift, etc., and handling the materials, tables, this and that. So I think that is one important part which should be part of the exercise, since we foresee that offices cannot be closed down. But when we talk about social distancing, I think we should, other than the offices, many other aspects have to be looked into, which should obviously be linked to your complete shutdown if necessary, and we will stand by the decision of the government.